Uh-oh.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Mic check, testing 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
Woo.
I want to thank everybody for staying with us and keeping trying as we try to sort out some technical issues. We're all joining in here for our weekly press briefing with Muskogee Creek Nation's Press Secretary Jason Salzman, and I have my colleague here with me, Gary Fife, his radio specialist with Muskogee Media. I am looking for our links to share out live here and see if we can get everybody watching live, and that way they can ask questions of our weekly press briefing. It's something we kind of picked up and have been doing lately. I'm not seeing the links though, guys. I'm wondering if we're set to go. And okay, it looks like I see it now. We're going to share this out and we will pick up there. Jason, thank you. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Can you fill us in on your last few days? How's it been going over at the executive branch?
As always, Angel, thank you so much for having me. So glad to be on with you all today. Yourself, Gary, Jared pushing the buttons there and making sure we finally got going, and certainly remember technical difficulties, and I know I can go. So appreciate working with it and everything like that. And it's been an eventful couple of days, of course, with the McGirt case before the Supreme Court. A historic day for us here, actually a historic day for America with teleconference Supreme Court oral arguments. So that was quite a thing to see. And it was quite a thing to listen in on and be a part of, especially in the principal chief's office. So yeah, it's been an eventful few days, and really I would say the dangest 2 months of my life. So but going good over here, and I hope everybody's good over there.
Yeah,
and I hope you had a great Mother's Day.
I did have a great Mother's Day. I was treated to some great food, and I didn't have to cook, and I basically sat around and watched a lot of other people work, and I got the remote for the day. That's my day with the remote, right? We're gonna watch what Mom wants. so that was very good weekend. I was listening in on McGirt Monday morning and tuned in just like everybody else with our eyes glued to the live feeds and listening, and we had just like some major, I think that always when we have something at the Supreme Court level, it's kind of a legal case that's well beyond what the average citizen, really takes in on a regular basis. It's all kind of out there, and you're always sifting and wondering what you're actually listening to. But there were some things that I heard during that discussion between the different parties, and I have seen that, Mike Hunter has put out the statement on McGirt and saying that he thinks the state did well. And then, of course, I think Chief has come out with a statement on our end. Would you like to give folks that statement as we, before we really dive into, I'd like to talk about the case a little bit, but I know you're probably going to have some barriers there.
Yeah, and if you'll just hold on 1 second, I will pull up that statement. And so I will have that for you. It is: the Muskogee Creek Nation has full faith and confidence in the Supreme Court process. We feel tribal representation made our argument today with brevity and clarity. Of course, that was yesterday, but today with brevity and clarity. The decision is now in the hands of the court, and we will wait for that decision. So, very brief, very concise, just like the arguments on behalf of the nation yesterday. Really, this is what happens. You make your arguments before the court. We went as far as we can. And now, no matter what we want, no matter what the other side wants, no matter what anyone wants, it is up to the Supreme Court justices to hand down a decision. And just like everyone else, we're waiting for that decision.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be something that we're going to be waiting on until at least I think June is
right.
What I understand. When I was listening, I kind of got, kind of sidetracked by some of the things I was hearing as far as the justices' questions. And it's always a little bit interesting to see what the Supreme Court justices, who are really the highest judges in the nation, understand and know about Indian country. And one of them that stood out in, I think, everybody's mind, and I've seen a lot of comments on the internet about this, is that Justice Kavanaugh was saying that Indians are not a social or political entity. They are a race class, and that was pretty alarming. So, do you have any thoughts on that topic?
Nothing personal to talk about any of the judges, but I think there were. I think the term yesterday was parade of horribles, but I think there were parade of inaccuracies as well yesterday that we saw
Mhm.
from different parties, whether it be exactly what you just mentioned there with the race question, but also saying that the five tribes sided with the Confederacy. That's a wide brush to
Mhm.
paint. It's not taking into account that that's not entirely true. There
Mhm.
were some numbers from the state given that I think are purely speculative and not accurate. But
Mhm.
to stay away from singling out any um, specific person or anything like that, I wouldn't do that. But I would just say that there were some inaccuracies, and but that's part of making an argument. You have to make a case, and nobody says that
Sure.
it has to be completely 100% true, especially when you're dealing with like I said, speculative information, whether this could be the case or this could result from a ruling on this side. So
Yeah.
that's just something that
One of
we
the major
we sort of stay away
arguments
from. Go ahead.
one of the major arguments we heard delivered, I think it was from the state, is that there's like all these people in and they're incarcerated and they would have this ability to just basically it was a fear tactic saying that they would just get out of jail. And I think one of the alarming things that they neglected to mention in their stats is that many of these people who are incarcerated are self-identifying as Native. How many of those actually are Native citizens? How many of those actually um, are incarcerated for crimes performed, in native territories. And so those kind of things were not really dived into in those brief little segments that they had to argue oral arguments, but we often see that kind of a fear tactic used. But that's something that some native journalists that I've encountered over the last year who are covering this topic have covered in depth, and they've broken down some of that data. So we're being looking for that kind of information to come out and kind of share with everyone. But I guess we'll move to our next question. And we have from, I haven't got one on our chat yet, it doesn't look like. But one of the next ones that we had is just to kind of check in on how the cabinet is doing and the interview process for the cabinet. And people are, I guess, one of the questions that Rita sent over to me this morning is how are they being evaluated? What are the things that are being looked for? And are they in second rounds right now? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, second rounds, and actually last couple of days, Chief is and Second Chief have been in on some interviews, interviewing some candidates. We're basically in the final stages, sort of kind of making those final decisions to where we can place them before council for confirmation. And we're
Mhm.
looking forward to that. And really, a lot of it is like we said again, and I think we had mentioned previously. We just love a chance to get these candidates that are chosen in front of the council, sort of in person, not through a telephone call or anything like that. But
Sure.
make it an actual confirmation process for them. Certainly, being named to the Muskogee Creek Nation cabinet is a wonderful honor, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to stand before your legislative body and talk about uh, your qualifications, why you think you're the best for the job, and why the chief thinks you're the best for the job. To have that moment before the council, I think was special, and it's useful to be
Mhm.
able to do it that way as well. So, still sort of in those second rounds of and really, I guess you could say final stages of the interviews. But yeah, last couple of days, Chief's been interviewing cabinet candidates, so
Okay.
everything's going good there, and we're still kind of on that timeline that I had mentioned earlier.
Mhm. And just to like make sure that everybody's aware that once Chief does select these candidates that he wants to put forward, can you fill us in on the process after that for selecting a cabinet and what all it entails?
Yeah, basically those choices go before a vote of the council,
Mhm.
and it's up to the council to confirm them or not. And we respect that process, and looking forward to that process. And that's the way it's done at the Muskogee Creek Nation, and that's the way a lot of the things are done. And so we really look forward to that. Just being a part of that, and Chief getting to make those final choices.
We have another question sent down for us. it's about COVID-19, and of course we can't have a conversation
Sure.
today without that being a topic. And we're starting to hear that some folks are being called back to the complex. I think you addressed this a little bit
Yeah.
in a previous presser, that there was going to be a need for people, and as that need arose, you would call them back. Have we started calling folks back, and what's that looking like?
Well, we haven't really started an official phasing in process yet because we're
Hmm.
still working with HR
Hmm.
and the Department of Health on really where our numbers are at. As you know, these things are changing almost by the hour. The
Sure.
models change, the numbers change. We're seeing good numbers, and then we open the state back up, or we open a large city back up, and the numbers kind of jump on us. So
Hmm.
you what you don't want to do, and I think you're seeing this with gaming sites as well, not just from
Hmm.
our tribe, but all around the country. What you don't want to do is you don't want to say, okay, we're ready to go, and then
Hmm.
say, oh, wait a minute, we jumped the gun, back out. That's a
Hmm.
tough process. We've already went through that process. We don't want to do it again. We want to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and that we have everything ready to go. So when we do come back, there's not a need for, say, days or just a week later or something like that. Hold up, everyone. We need to let you out again. So
Hmm.
we have started those conversations with HR, with the health department, working in tandem, drafting a reentry plan. Which, as I said, we phased out, we'll phase in,
Hmm.
and that's just kind of where we're at with that right now. Although we have, like you said, managers, directors are sort of reaching out, putting out feelers to some employees. Hey, how do you feel? Do you feel vulnerable? Where are you at? This is a mental exhaustion thing with COVID-19 as well. We understand a lot
Yes.
of people have been put through the ringer mentally. It may do them some good to come back to work. So we just want to talk to them. We want to reconnect with them, see where everyone's at, and to see if we can match up their mentality with what we need as far as the resumption of activities and operation.
Would that resumption come with the precautions that we're observing now, the wearing of mask and the social distancing? I mean, is that going to be a part of this reopening, so to speak?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that. We have a really good number of masks that have been ordered from our not only our GSA, but we also received 3,000 masks from FEMA. That was done by Secretary of the Interior, Mr. Um, uh, Jesse Allen, excuse me. And Jesse was able to get those masks and work with FEMA on those, and did a great job. And also Shane Holaby with our ordering of the mask and everything like that uh, in a kind of a stockpile. Basically, right now, everybody's kind of all hands on deck. I went to Walmart the other day, couldn't get vinegar. And that was kind of strange. And then I went somewhere else, couldn't get vinegar. And I thought, wow, we got a vinegar shortage now in addition to toilet paper. So
Yeah.
those are things that you're kind of seeing, and that hasn't, the GSA folks, and Shane Holaby and the guys that are procuring a lot of supplies, that hasn't, they haven't been immune to that. They actually have had a hard time sort of getting things bought in bulk, and
Mm.
we're being mindful of that as well. But those are some of the things, Gary. Yes, there would be, we would ask that people stay at workstations and social distancing, uh, take all the precautions that you need, as well as with PPE, all the PPE we can get. Those things would be definitely instituted when we asked folks to come back in mass.
Recently, excuse me, we've seen that Fountainhead announced that it's going to be reopening on social media, that the golf course is going to be reopening. Is that part of some planning that the nation's doing to kind of get everybody reacquainted with society again?
Yeah. Well, and Angel, of course, golf courses are one of those things where people aren't really, they don't have to be in close proximity. You're out in the
Mhm.
open. We've seen other golf courses open. We've seen
Some
sort of
never
that be a
closing.
precedent. Yeah, some never close. But
Mhm.
we wanted to be careful as we could with that. But also that's one of those places that we can kind of identify as, well, that's something that we can kind of maybe get going already, and we're proud to be able to do that, and proud of that area down there, and to be able to get some folks out and enjoying some time and enjoying some golf out at Fountainhead.
We have some of the more difficult questions to ask. It was brought to our attention that in BF&J meeting. It's a meeting that I cover, and I was listening to audio of that the other night, and I have definitely got some questions about that meeting for multiple parties, really. One of the councilmen asked the question about a ransom. Is that something that we can talk about? Is that something you are at liberty to talk about? I've just wanted to kind of do my due diligence and ask all the questions that I can, and I understand.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I understand that you do have to ask that question. And unfortunately, the tribe did experience a data security incident. Immediately upon learning of this data security incident, which was Friday, not April, sorry. Oh, yes, April 24th, Friday, April 24th. I'm trying to get my days and months mixed now. Immediately upon learning of this, we engaged a leading computer forensics firm that got together with law enforcement, both ours and outside law enforcement, to lead an investigation into the matter. That investigation is still ongoing. At this time, we don't have any indications or reports that tribal citizens or employees' personal information has been used for identity theft or fraud stemming from this incident. There's nothing to support that, or no reports that have been given or evidence that have been given to us that would indicate that. As I mentioned, this is an ongoing investigation, and we will provide updates as we obtain them and get the relevant information. We will do that. But because this is an ongoing matter, we're not releasing any specific details at this time, because we don't want to compromise the effectiveness of this investigation, both to bring these people, bring the parties to justice, but also to compromise any headway or any positivity that we've achieved so far in the process of kind of hitting this head on. So really right now, no specific details, just it's an ongoing investigation, and that's really all I can say about it.
Recently, our nation was putting out some instructions on, getting everybody back up and running IT wise. Is that the case now? Are we functioning at least program wise? If I'm imagining that this is pretty poor timing to have something as bad as a kind of attack on information systems, when a lot of our services provided do rely on those. Can we say that we are back up and running, and that our services are functioning at this time?
Again, I don't want to say anything that would jeopardize where we're at in this process, because these are certainly situations where just the smallest amount of information, whether good, bad, whatever, can be used against you. So really, the IT department has done a fantastic job of getting us back operational to a great percentage, and we're very, very thrilled about that. And it's just I wouldn't want to put an exact number on it.
Okay, I understand. Thank you so much for kind of addressing those concerns. And as we kind of navigate this and move forward, we wanted to reach out and let you know that we're here for letting people know the latest and updates on that, and we'll follow along as we're able to, and kind of disseminate that information as quickly as it becomes available. I'm not opposed to holding a Friday press briefing if it takes a Friday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just wanted to reach out.
I want to point out, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the questions. I do want to point out too that as soon as the forensics investigation is complete and we have a forensics report on exactly what we've dealt with and what's been done, we are very happy to provide that to Muskogee media, the public, the Muskogee National Council first and foremost, and everybody that has a dog in the fight. So we really appreciate everybody's understanding of really the precarious situation of being, like I said, in a data security incident such as this. So thank you for the questions, though.
Sure. And just
a question about the calendar and the listings of events that are important to the tribe. We've already seen where the festival has had to be, I believe the word is postponed.
Yes, sir.
And we saw today where the immersion camp, the language immersion camp, is also postponed. Do you have any discussions about what else might be affected? Is there something else that may be a target, so to speak?
Gary, I appreciate the question because I know, a lot of people out there that are your viewers, your listeners, and as well as us, that key into what we're putting out. Uh, they schedule around these things years in, a year in advance, maybe long
Mm,
months in advance. And it's something as special as an immersion camp that couldn't be any more, uh, in the heart of this administration, this tribe, and how special, and not only special, but how important something like an immersion camp is, and how crucial that is to the survival of our culture. We don't want, well, that's the last thing we want to do is see that postponed or even rescheduled, anything like that. But really, when you're dealing with something like we are dealing with right now, uh, which is something that nobody has ever really dealt with before. There's no playbook for it, anything like that. We're just really erring on the side of caution. Yes, it was very difficult to postpone the festival, also immersion camp, many others. And nothing I can think of, right this moment will be canceled, pushed back, anything like that that comes to mind. We're sort of playing it by ear and really going a little bit by the lead of the casinos with a 2 week model, saying, kind of 2 weeks at a time, we'll take another look. 2 weeks at a time, we'll take another look. And I can see we've had a question about the Council Oak ceremony. That might be a little bit too far out there to even speculate.
mm.
If I was thinking right now, I'm going to be positive and say, hey, I think there's a good chance we can have that as regularly scheduled, normal. But I don't want to say that for sure. But I do want to have a positive attitude about the fact that we have seen some infection rates look a little bit better, and we have seen a few numbers in our favor. But there's one thing, guys,
One
that
more
this
specific question is how
sure.
about something like the scholarship pageants? I know that is hugely important to many families and people who participate. Would that still be kind of a question mark?
Gary, I think with something like the scholarship pageant, I don't want to speak for that, the folks that put that on, but I think when you look around the country, you're seeing virtual graduations, you're seeing virtual ceremonies, things like that. Maybe it's something this year that we have a virtual pageant, and we do that. We bring the ladies in a environment that's not um, it's not something that puts their health in danger, or it puts them in a safe environment as far as any kind of infection or any kind of chance of the spread of that or anything like that. And we let them do, the things that they do at the pageant. They present themselves, they present their culture, they present their talent, they present all of the things that go in that. But they just do it virtually, and people can enjoy it at home. People are looking for things to watch right now anyway. I know you've, Gary. If I know you, you've probably exhausted all your Netflix shows by now, and you're probably looking for something else to bring up on the computer anyway. So,
Well, I've
hey, why
got a
not
pretty
sit and
good
watch the
Star
pageant?
Wars library.
I tell you, well, I was gonna say, I bet Star Wars is getting regular play, but I think that that's one of those things that, as we talk about, the uniqueness of this too, and just seeing the Supreme Court argued over the telephone. This would maybe the first time for a lot of people to enjoy the beauty and the really the just the cultural significance of a Miss Muskogee Junior Miss Muskogee pageant in the comfort of their own home. I mean, that's a first for somebody out there. So I think that would be okay. And I don't, like I said, I don't want to speak for them. I know they're hard at work making plans, but I think that could be something that you may see that might be a little bit different, and could still capture the spirit of the moment and the spirit of the event.
Sure. One more question.
Sure.
Going back to the Supreme Court discussions, has there been any talk, any analysis among the administration or anyone about what they heard? I mean, the arguments were essentially the same. We were aware of that, but perhaps the attitude of the justices and when they were asking questions, it seemed like it was not in a positive for us vein.
Yeah, Gary, I think probably I wouldn't want to speculate on the chief or second chief's feelings about it, but I think that if you listen to the arguments, just as you pointed out, some of the comments by the judges we're all kind of sitting there, right, with a little tally going, okay, well, mark for this one here. that's a point where you may see that that's something for the tribe. This one's something for the state, and you're kind of tallying, going, okay, these three judges are on our side, these three are on the other side, and then we've got two that are kind of hanging in the balance, or wherever the numbers may fall. But I think anybody that listened in on that could kind of gather from just, and again, it's very unique in the fact that it was over the phone. So you really can't, like somebody, you may argue with a loved one or something on the phone, and you go, I really wish we were face to face. This would be different. I feel like I'm not coming across like I would be if we were face to face and you could see me and things like that. I think, it's only human to say you have to factor that in a little bit. So I think it's hard to read people's true feelings in that scenario. And I know, Justice Ginsburg, coming off of surgery just a little over a week ago, was doing hearing cases in a hospital bed. I don't know if she's still in the hospital, but I mean, it's affecting everybody in different ways. So as far as tone and how they're making their arguments, that may be that may be subjective. But I think you could listen to that and say, I can kind of see the way that each of them are leaning, and you can kind of, like I said, in a way, just kind of tally up and kind of see where you're at and where you might need to flip a couple of judges.
One of the things that I've been concerned with since the beginning of even this, even when it was Murphy, one of the things that as we went into COVID-19 and we've seen these social distancing practices and we see these kind of things transpire over a teleconference and things like that is, this is just a personal fear of mine, is that I'm worried that these justices start looking at this case through a new lens of public safety. In the past, the state has used the argument of letting people out of jail who might not be, ready for the rest of the world to be around. Now that they're looking through it through a lens of a public health crisis, that does become a concern for every tribe's sovereignty that is at stake here, because then these justices go, well, wait a minute. Now let's think about why we're on this conference call. And I worry that has an impact on it. But I think a lot of the times as you see these justices begin to ask more questions, some of them getting harder and harder, it may be just a preliminary sussing out of things in their minds that they have had the time to stew on. And so things that they are concerned about. And I always try to not read too much into that in the beginning, because that is the whole premise of the legal system, is to ask those hard questions and to be prepared to answer those. And so I think that our end of it looked like it did a pretty good job of trying to stay the course on what is specifically the Creek Nation's side of this. So
and it's a complex case. There's a reason it's at the Supreme Court and that nobody else could decide it. There's lots up to interpretation. We feel it's a little bit simpler than a lot of other people do. Was it disestablished? Was it not? For us, it's kind of a one specific issue. We have no interest whatsoever in the criminal portion of this, just the jurisdictional and the disestablishment or of the reservation. And like I said, on our side, it's unfortunate that in a lot of stories that you see on the McGirt case, and the story can be about us as a tribe and how we feel about it. And the first thing you see is a big picture of Jimcy McGirt in an orange jumpsuit. I mean, it has nothing to do with the criminal case.
And that was really outlined in the Muskogee Creek Nation's briefing, is that we are in the middle of this by complete, accident almost, is that it just so happens to have occurred, in our jurisdiction. And that is why it even involves the name Muskogee Creek Nation. So I think all of the questions from our chatters have been answered. They asked about Council Oak ceremony and about Native American Day Parade, which is going to be happening towards the fall.
I would say that that's a Tulsa. That's between the city of Tulsa and the Tulsa Indian Affairs Commission. And it's one of those things where they will probably make an announcement, and I would keep my eyes on those two, those two organizations for sure.
Okay. All right. If Gary, do you have anything else?
Yes. In recent days, we've seen some sparks between the governor and the AG. The Indian Gaming Association and a couple of tribal leaders. OIGA suspended 2 tribes and sort of kicked them out, so to speak. And then, of course, Governor Stitt is still pushing his agenda. Has there been any discussion about the solidarity cracking, so to speak, if 2 tribes pull out? I know everyone tries to respect the sovereignty of other tribal nations, but there's got to be more to it than that. So has the chief or second chief or anyone, perhaps from the legislature, brought this subject up and have had some sort of thoughts on it, presentation, statement, any reaction there?
Our reaction is that we're as united for Oklahoma and with the OIGA and with the other tribes that haven't broke out and signed anything yet as we've ever been. And that's the way it's going to remain. And we feel that there is strength in unity and in solidarity with our fellow tribes that are still holding out for a legal and fair agreement. And we're still going to be doing that until we feel that that's reached, or that we get something that looks like it checks all those boxes for us. So yeah, the answer to that is united as we've ever been with our fellow tribes that haven't signed the compacts, and that's where I'll leave it.
All right. I think that's about all we have for today. If no one else has submitted any more questions to our chat, I just want to thank you, Jason, for always taking the time to come talk with us here, and look forward to the next week. And if there's anything else you want to add before we go.
Yeah, I would add that we do this every single week. And I open myself up to any questions at all from not only Muskogee media, but from all the citizens that want to jump on and say anything that they'd like, any question that they'd like to ask. And I think that is an example of transparency from your tribal government that we haven't ever seen, at least as long as I've been here. So I don't think there's any questions of transparency of tribal government that hold water due to the amount of coverage that's put out there and availability of the executive office. And we're really, really proud of that, and really, really proud to just basically deliver on that campaign promise. So thank you for allowing us this avenue every single week. And we're so thrilled to be able to come on and talk to you all about anything and everything that's going on here.
Always. And anytime there's a need for a press briefing, just hit us up, and we usually try to do our best to wrangle it up and make the time, even if technical issues keep us off the live feed just a little bit like they did today. I'm glad we sorted it out, and thank you for being here, Jared. We're going to sign off and tell everybody Mado till next time.
All right. Thank you, guys.